Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin, and today I have a deeper dive for you on fractional notes, the third issue of notes. And we're going to take a closer look at this series, which is really interesting because the first thing that it does is it introduces the 3-cent note. Just so you know, of course, you can always like, share, and subscribe, but also you can join us here on our journey. We do have memberships available, and we're going to take a closer look at these guys. And there are some very specific varieties we're going to look at, because a lot of people wonder what's the difference on this 3-cent piece between what's known as the light background, the Friedberg 1227, and the dark background. The light is 1226, the dark is 1227. And this is the two different notes. When you see them next to each other, it's a little easier to tell. You know, it looks like the entire thing was re-engraved with the light background. You can see a lot of contrast there with Washington. And then on the dark background, look at all that line work up and around Washington behind its head. Pretty neat. And actually, when you look at these notes, I mean, physically, look at the size difference of these. You know, these two notes in and of themselves, you can see the difference in the width of the notes, but also just the area that's printed. If I line up the top of the row, you know, they're very different in actual size. So they're also, they're almost exactly the same in width, but their height is very different from one note to the other. So the 3-cent piece really only comes in those two varieties, the dark and the light. Now, these issues here that we're going to look at, all of the third issue have a kind of a similar look, a very, I want to say, busy or messy look that you're going to run into on these. And so they have a lot of legalism. They don't have as much interest, especially in the 3 cents and 5 cents. But they do have a lot of variety. So what you get into is some plate block positioning on these issues, where they had a little plate block letter or number or both. And so let me show you on that. Like on the 5-cent piece, for example, you can see they were printed in a 4x5 matrix, and there's an A on the left side of the sheet. And so occasionally you'll get notes that'll have this little A on it. You can see the A is right there under the 5. And so they come with or without the A, and they also come with either a red back or a green back. So this one we'll look and see, but there is no A, and this is the green back. So that lines up with Friedberg number 1238. So there are 4 different varieties on that 5-cent note. So far, not too exciting. Now we get into the 10-cent column, and we're going to see a whole lot of different varieties popping up now in these 10 cents. And I have a couple of different ones to show to you. Once again, the 10-cent comes with either the red back or the green back. And so if we glance really quick, you'll see I have some of both here. You know, that looks a little blue, but it's green. So the red back and the green back. And they also come with lettering as well, just like the 5-cent piece did. Also similar, where you've got like a little guide mark here, where you had your ones on the left, and then you had this 4x5 matrix. The 1 is pretty faint. It blends in with the design. You can see it right there, right on the edge of the note. Let's see if any of these guys have that 1 on it. That 1 would be located right there. There's none on that one. Here we go. Look how faint it is. Hard to see, but that little 1 right there changes the Friedberg number on this, because you can get this note with or without the 1 on it. One of the other things that is, I think, quite remarkable about some of these fractional notes is you have notes that were actually hand autographed. So on these ones here, you'll see what a printed note looks like. So what's the difference between a printed note and a hand autographed one? Now look at that. You know, you've got the paper kind of bleeding through a little bit, and also the word register and the word treasurer are written on there by hand, which is pretty cool. So we've got a couple here that are hand autographed, hand signed. Let's see that one. See, and that's now these hand signed ones, sometimes they just look like it's printed because their handwriting was very consistent. See, look how consistent that looks. Now this is a print, and that's the hand signed. You see the difference in the color variation, and sometimes you can see a little bit of bleed through on the back of the ones that are signed. So you can see just a little bleed through on the back of those two notes. So the third issue of fractional notes, it gets even more dicey after this, guys, because next you get to the quarter notes, and on the quarter notes, let's grab. I've got a couple of quarter notes to look at. The quarter notes came also with two different colored backs. You've got a green back or a red back. These are both green back, but you also have plate positions. And just like those other notes, you have plate positions, but they vary a little bit more on the quarters. Where you have both a plate position of an A and a 1, where these were printed, because they're different sized notes, they're printed in a 4x3 pattern. So you have 1 out of every 12 notes has a 1 and an A on it, creating some others type of scarcity. Now you also have these errors where you have the A out of place. The A is supposed to be located blended in right up here, right? So they've got all kinds of different varieties that you run into with this quarter. So on these two notes here, I do have one with an A on it, and the A is, let's see if we can find him. There's the A right there to the right of the quarter, and on this note to the right of the quarter there is none. So you can see the difference between those two Friedbergs, 1294 and 1295. This third issue gets so complicated, guys, because next up there is also on the 50-cent notes. Now I only have one type with spinner, but there's a second type that also has what's known as the Justice design. And the Justice design looks like this. It's got Lady Justice on it. Also, you've got the plate block numbers in a 3x4 pattern. So you've got the 1s, the A's, or the 1A's. So it gets complicated. There's your 1 position on those, and your A position is down at the bottom. And you also have on these guys red backs and green backs. And you also see these actually use that same gold foil technology that was on the previous series, on Series 3, where that is printed, of course, in an overdate fashion, which can create errors with inverted overprints. It also, of course, has that gold foil on the obverse. These other notes actually had some gold foil too, I should point out. You know, there is actually gold foil on these as well, both on the back and the front. The 10-cent, this little area here is gold print. But then on the 5s and the 3s, there is no gold foil. But on the 10s and up, they've got the gold foil on the back and on the front. So once again, when you're looking at these guys, you got to look for those plate positions, and they can be very hard to locate because they can be very faint. See, look at that. There's a 1 right there. But look at how faint it is. If you're just glancing at this, it just kind of blends in with the side. But that changes the Friedberg number, and it changes the rarity. These notes also come, like I pointed out on that 3-cent note, in different sizes. So if you get notes to line up perfectly corner to corner, you know, they should all be the same length, but some of them are different. These are all the same size, so it's kind of silly for me to show them to you. These also come with overprints on the corners on the reverse. So you can see this note here has no overprint to them. In the backs, the design is actually different from the red to the green, which is also something that is a little bit more unusual for the series. So you can actually see a different design from one colored back to the next. And so this one, though, you do see those imprint marks right there and there. The third series was made from 1864 to 1869. And what's crazy about it is you see this has a huge amount. I'm going to go ahead and flip the page here because it's on 2 pages. But it has such a huge amount of notes that you have to try to distinguish the different Friedberg numbers on. All of these here are the 50-cent notes from the 3rd issue. That's continued from the previous page. You saw a few there. There's just a ton of types. So this is a very challenging area to collect. If you're going to try to collect anything and you just want a big old fat challenge, start studying the 3rd series of fractional notes, and you will be amazed at the difficulty in locating all the different types and varieties. And one more thing to point out here is some of these papers have those little position numbers on them, or sheet numbers on them. You got those little numbers in the corner sometimes. Where do you go? Oh, this one. So good luck. It's quite the challenge. If you want to have a good time trying to find something, learn about the 3rd issue of Fractional Notes. I'm Ben the Coin Geek. You can subscribe by clicking on the button in the corner. Please leave your comments down below and let me know anything that I missed.